How's it going, everybody, and welcome to episode 250 of Master My Garden podcast. Now, this week's episode is a slightly unusual one in terms of what we normally cover on the podcast, but I think it's one that you're going to enjoy. So, back in June, I was speaking at Buds and Blossoms, and I came across a range of metal plant supports, bird bats, arches, trellises, obelisks that I thought were gorgeous. At the time when I passed by, there happened to be nobody just on the stand at that very second. I said I called back, and then a bit of rain came, so I didn't get back. So, delighted to be joined this week by Rosie Campbell from Rosabell Plant Supports, and based in County Down, I believe. And they're absolutely gorgeous. So there's somebody with a very, very creative eye here, because obviously there's lots of plant supports out there, lots of obelisks out there of varying types of qualities and strengths, but these ones really catch the eye with nice little features on them, little bits of coloring and little bits of birds on certain things, and just really stand out pieces. And I thought it was worth having a chat to chat about the range and so on. So Rosie, you're very, very welcome to Master My Garden podcast.
Thank you very much, John. I'm delighted to be here and to talk about our products. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I say, it caught my eye. It caught my eye at Buds and Blossoms, and it was my first time to kind of see the range. I think I had seen something online previously, but not spent a whole lot of time looking at it. But in the flesh that day, they really caught my eye, and there was a big range of stuff, obviously obelisks and arches and whatever else. But they stood out as being something different that I hadn't seen before, and yeah, caught my eye. So I said it was worth having a chat. So tell us about Rosabell and
Right. Well, I suppose the name to start with, it's just really a mashup of my own name, Rosie Campbell, and my husband's surname. When we really only started it as a response to the needs of our own garden. Um, we just couldn't find anything decent when it came to the likes of half arches or, an arch, that's something that was really robust in the garden.
Mhm.
So Mark jokingly said one day I could make better than that. I bought one online and I says, okay, then you make better. And he did.
Go ahead.
So then I'm a member of a wee gardening group myself, and the girls were at the house and they all loved it. And God, could your mom make me this or could he make me that? So just kind of, there was no real plan to start it, but it just sort of happened, I suppose, and evolved. And our product range just keeps evolving as well. And as well, I think it's a hobby for us too. It's something that we're really passionate about it because we love our own garden and we want to put stuff in the garden that's functional, but it looks really well as well. And it lasts, obviously, in our lovely Irish climate with all the rain and the wind. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it came to be. About 3 years now. Um, and we've just loved every minute of it, to be honest.
Yeah. What you say there is that they stand out in that they're strong and robust, and not everything that you see,
Yeah.
in garden centers and so on is, and particularly things like rose arches. Like it's rare that you'll buy a rose arch that's really fit for purpose or fit for purpose over a long term.
Well,
Whereas,
that's what we aim to make it because I mean, your standard in the garden centers are kind of wire that's coated, in that black PVC or green, and they're very flimsy, So our
mhm,
stuff is made of mild steel, and we either it can be left to rust, it'll never rust through because it's solid bar, or and a lot of people like that look in the garden because it kind of blends in, then
yeah,
or you can have it galvanized and powder coated, which means you're totally finished with it, and
yeah.
it can be really any color under the sun that you want it to be, So that's just what we aim for. We want a good quality product that you don't have to buy again in 2 years or 3 years. It might be a bit more expensive than something in the garden center, but it's like, when you think of your use of it, you're going to get out of it. It isn't really.
Yeah, it's funny. We spoke about things like this on the podcast before. Um, whether it is expensive or not, it's a funny thing, because if you have like a 20 euro product or a 25 euro product and it lasts for 4 years, and then you have to start again and you have to buy two or three of them,
Yeah,
and there's if you have to pay 200 for a product that lasts the guts of a lifetime, then
this is it. Yeah.
there is no comparison.
No, there is no comparison. And even in our own garden, we bought things in the past and they've literally just disintegrated maybe after a year, like a wee obelisk that's, I always like those ones, that's the cream vintage look.
Yeah.
And literally within a year, it's totally rusted through and it's fallen apart. So we sort of started really just with one or two products, and then as we make more and people like them, and then maybe somebody will request something in particular, just sort of build it up for the last 2 to 3 years. And we were very fortunate to be able to become members of ISNA, the Irish Specialist Nursery Association. So we can attend all of their plant fairs, which is great because you're out there with, real diehard gardeners who love their garden and want decent plants and decent quality stuff for the garden. So that was a great boost for us, I think. And a way for us really to get across the whole country instead of, we're based up here in Northern Ireland, but I mean, we do be the length and breadth of the country each year. So that was something very useful. And we also do a few craft fairs then as well, come the end of the year now with smaller things. We do bird baths and things like that, which anybody can really have in their garden. If you've only got a pot, you can put some of our things in them. If you don't even have a garden, if a patio. So, yeah.
And for sure, every year on the podcast, I cover Christmas gifts for gardeners of that year. And it's funny, the list typically ends up being somewhat similar with an odd little thing coming into it. But that's something that struck me, the likes of the bird baths. They're a beautiful Christmas gift and not something that has been on before, on the podcast before. So yeah, really nice idea for Christmas gift.
I would say the bird baths are one of our best sellers, really. Everybody seems to like them. We have 3 different designs, and they always sell well, especially now at the wee craft fairs, just for as say for gardeners, or just even people who only have a small garden. They're popular, because they do bring the birds in. People like that. We don't have a feeder as such; it's just a bird bath. But we do smaller stakes and more decorative things. I sort of became conscious when we started doing the ISNA plant fairs. But some of our things are quite large, and you want something that people can carry away on the day as well. So we started doing the more decorative stakes, like the poppy heads and seed heads that you can actually use as a rod to support a plant, or with spirals that you can twine around a single stem, or they can, in the wintertime, they can just solely be like a statement or a focal point in your garden. That's adding a bit of interest. And they also sell really well now at Christmas as well for gardeners.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Before we start to kind of get into the range and drill into bestsellers and all that sort of thing, you mentioned that the original idea came from a need within your own garden. Tell us a little bit about your own garden, because by the sounds of it, it sounds like you're in a garden club.
Yes, well, I think I've always loved gardening. My father was a gardener, really just could have done anything in the garden. He just had that sort of magic touch. But he only had a small garden. But he was the sort of man, he made his own greenhouse out of old windows. And I think that's probably where my love of gardening came from as a child. But then, yourself, you get married, you have kids and you have a job and you don't have much time for this, that, the other. But I say about 6 or 7 years ago, I just said to my man, I went out one day, I said, I'm going to go out to Rosie the garden now. And he says, oh God, because he knows what that means inside the house. So he was like, all right, okay, we'll see where this goes. So we started in the environs of our own garden, which was literally at that stage just grass, hedges, a few pots at the door. Because we never really had the time. And the kids started to head to uni, you thought, you kind of get your life back a bit. And it was like, God, I've got that time now. And yeah, famous last words. We were actually now broke out of the garden and we're in the field around the house. So we're in County Down. We live very fortunate to live between the mountains and the sea. Beautiful views either way, but we also have the wind. As I say, is the cost of those views, I always say, is the wind. So we need robust things in our garden. We need robust structures, and that's really the response. It was just the need of our own garden. It started with a half arch, was the first thing that Mark made for me. Trellis. We sort of just moved on from there,
Yeah. And within your garden, just to describe it, is it all types of plants? How big is it gone now?
Well, it's about 3/4 of an acre now, I would say.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I like the cottage garden feel, I suppose. So it would be mostly herbaceous and perennial,
Yeah,
plants.
yeah,
I like to grow a lot from seed. So I would do that every year, and there's just real stalwarts that are great that fill up holes in your borders. And again, what we've been trying to do is, well, I think we've lived in this house about 20 years now. We built ourselves, so is build up the shelter belt around it. We've lined trees with various hedges. And we've some things that worked in the past for us, some things that we've lost with the beast from the east. We lost a hedge, so yeah, we've just been there's been no master plan. It's just sort of grown and evolved
yeah.
as if we've had more time and visited more gardens, and you get new inspiration and you want to try different things. So yeah, don't think we're going to go any further than that field, but we've a bit to do. Going to keep me busy for another while.
Before we move off your garden, what hedge died in the
It was what hedge died in it was an early Agnes. Yeah.
the Agnes? Yeah, no, because last week's episode was about hedges, and yeah, it was just interesting to hear that because
Yeah. It only to the side of the prevailing wind, to the other side we still have it.
mhm.
So yeah, it's just been it's challenging. Do you know, it is challenging.
Yeah,
The weather's challenging. I suppose it's challenging for everybody, but ours is always wind and rain this last while. But we've done a lot round the house to help with the runoff of rain, and we took our drive up. People thought we were mad. Took the tarmac up, and we put gravel down. I've always wanted to do it. Mark finally conceded, and it was the best thing we ever did.
mhm.
It's such a difference around our house from the way the water used to fill. We just have none of that now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and now I'm threatening to grow stuff in it, and he's worried.
In the driveway.
Oh, I
Yeah, yeah. Sure, why not? Why not?
I
Yeah.
there'll be a
Um,
few packets of seeds sprinkled this on. We'll know nothing about till they appear.
he will the more on them than next year.
Yep.
Yeah. In terms of the range then, so it has, if you want to run through it yourself and tell us everything that's in it, because
Yes,
there's
we
a
do.
lot of bits in it now, isn't there?
There's a lot, yeah. So we do. In my mind, there's two sorts of plant support. You have really functional support that you just want to disappear in your garden.
Mm.
And then you have supports, I suppose, that you want to add maybe a bit of structure to your garden, add a focal point, a bit of a flourish that's going to be there in the winter time or even in the summertime. But to me, they are functional as well, but they're also maybe structural, architectural, and they're adding an interest to your garden. The more functional ones are just your standard D hoops. I mean, you get them in garden centres and covered in green PVC or black PVC, but we do them in a heavier bar and they just rust down to a natural rust finish. And then we have another would be a step up from that. We call it the muck rust support. It was actually an old design we saw at Muck Ross House in Killarney a couple of years ago when we were on holidays, and it has two hoops on it, and you can actually tie them together and make a circle. So they're great for a big herbaceous perennial that you
Yeah.
haven't supported in time, because you can put, you're not trying to put a basket over it. You can work in one half and the other half and actually tie them with a wee bit of string together. They're a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
seller for us as well. We do a range of perennial baskets, so like a peony basket. We've lobster pots. We can do them any size. We have a couple of obelisks again, just that I like for my own garden. For sweet pea, we call it the Lapras obelisk. It's a great big tall obelisk, and we have a shorter one. But we've done so many different designs for people who want different heights and different widths. Just we can tailor them to anything really. Clematis obelisk is another one which is very popular that we only started doing this year because a few people had asked us for it. So we do try a thing, and if we like it and we sell a few of it, then we'll keep it and we'll put it in the range and we'll put it on the website, because there's so many
Mhm.
sort of products that you could have if you look out there in the range. You just have to nearly limit yourself, or you wouldn't be able to cover them all.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have them, and then we do the largest thing we sell is a moongate, which was something Mark really wanted to do. My husband, he is the welder. I don't weld. He's the metal guy.
Mm.
So he had seen this a few times, and I'd loved it myself for the garden, but you could only ever, get them mainland UK or America or something. So we started doing them, and they're popular. I mean, they're a big ticket item in the garden as well. So not everybody is going to spend that. But if you want to do a real focal point in your garden, they're fabulous. And in my own garden, I had a walkway, and I said I wanted 5. And he was like, no, 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 3, you'll get 3. I said, no, I want 5. And then I had a garden, a guy that I know he does, he's a consultant, and he said it was just a private visit to my garden. And he said, oh, no, Rosie, you need 5 there. And I thought, yay. So Mark was with me at that time, so we had to concede. So we literally only got the last 2 back from the powder coaters on Monday. So we'll be able to finish that over the weekend. And we
And
also,
they're class, the moon gates. I saw
yeah,
those now
they're
at,
really, they do make a real, I suppose, a statement in your garden.
yeah. And
We,
size wise, they're I'm just from memory, they're like a diameter of maybe 2.5 meters or something like that at the
yes, there
widest
would be
pint.
like, yeah, there would
Yeah.
be. And we do them galvanized and powder coated, so you're totally finished with them. But he's also been devising one more like a flat bar with rivets. It's a wee bit, I suppose, that more traditional looking, that can rust down and will be a bit cheaper, and
Hmm.
also will be quicker in the production, because we manufacture everything and we just don't have loads of stock sitting, so it just means if somebody orders a moongate with us, we are also at the liberty of the galvanizer and the powder coater, so we have to outsource that, and that takes
Yeah.
extra time.
Yeah.
So the flat bar arch means we're totally in control of it, and we can make it, and we don't have that extra time. Then we can say somebody, oh, it'll be 2 weeks, it'll be 3 weeks, and we'll be confident it'll be that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If somebody wants something galvanized and powder coated, it could be another 3 weeks on top of that we can't control.
Yeah, you're just waiting on someone else. And
Hmm.
what are you going to plant on your 5 moon gates?
Oh, well, now I already have plants in, because we codged together on the prototype flat bar one, and then we just used an arch on the end where the other 2 were missing, because we wanted to get the plants in over the summer. So I have wisteria on each Floribunda alba. I have a variety of different clematis that will flower at different times each year. There's 2 clematis on each moon gate. I have a rose, Rosabell Lane, which is a lovely climbing rose, and a late flowering rose. It's actually still flowering now.
Hmm.
And I have then, between the moon gates, I have planted a compact hydrangea bonfire, which is fabulous color now, stunning. And I've underplanted it with geranium azure rush, so it's a compact sort of version of Roseanne,
Yeah.
which leaves me now in the wintertime lovely soil, lovely sort of areas there, so I can start adding more snowdrops and really make a feature of the snow. I do have snowdrops in the garden, but this will be, I know there's only going to be snowdrops there. That's all I'm going to put in the bulb department. So
Yeah.
I'm going to continue my collection there. Yeah.
And is it a pathway through or what?
Yes, we have a paved pathway through. Yeah. It's just like sort of a natural mix of a red paving tile, like a bracken mix. It actually mimics the tiles we have in our house. They're rosemary redlands. My name's on
Mhm.
every one of them. So yeah, it looks really well. Well,
I'd imagine that's class. Yeah. Yeah.
hmm,
Especially when the five go in, they're going to be class.
yeah,
And
I'm excited by that now too. We're going to get them in on Saturday morning now. So
yeah.
um,
And that's
yeah,
a nice mix of plants to give you that, different
want
flowering
something
periods.
common, yeah,
Yeah.
every season. And I actually have laburnum standards then as well, sort of in between, sort of staggered in between, just standard trees. That'll give a nice spring color.
Yeah, brilliant. And I
Mm,
suppose the other thing with that is that the quality of the arch or an arch of that quality allows you to put several plants on it, and you know that they're going to be there
does,
for a long period of time, as opposed to loading up something that's
yeah,
not maybe the best, and a couple of years down the line your plant is flying and then your arch is in
yeah.
bits.
It's gone, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially if you use wooden ones.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
so that sounds class. So that's the moon arch. So obelisk, you mentioned you
We have
very.
the lapis one, and then we have the dough, what we call dough one. Lots of our products we just name after the mountains because they're behind us, so
Yeah.
it's easy that way. But again, they're just And the clematis one is just literally for clematis. We just call it clematis obelisk because it makes it obvious for people.
Yeah. How high is that?
It's at about, I think it's about 2.5 meters
Yeah.
high as well.
Yeah.
There's two. There's a medium and there is a large one as well. I just don't know offhand the actual
Yeah, no,
height.
it doesn't matter. Even roughly is good. And then you mentioned that you had kind of one that was suitable for sweet peas. That's a kind of a, I guess.
Yes, this is the one now we put a bird on the top of it. And a lot of people like it, but then some people just like, like a ball or an open cage on top of it, which we
Yeah.
can do as well. So
The little.
actually the clematis obviously, yeah, they're 2.1 meters high,
Yeah.
and the shorter one is 1,500 high. And the obelisk that we use for sweet pea again is 2.1 meters high.
Yeah. The one with the bird on it was actually what caught my eye, and you
Mm.
had the flower stakes with a kind of a metal flower, colorful metal flower on the top.
Yeah,
They
do.
really caught my eye.
Yeah, we do a few different. They're, I suppose, a bit of fun in the garden,
Yeah.
and they're also can be functional if you want to stake a plant with them. But we've started doing a few of them, and then a more structural one is like a seed head. So it's like an allium seed head, and they're really, really tall. And we do them as a set of three, and they actually, because the rod is so tall, actually there's a bit of a sway with it. So they're really nice in that they will take, they'll move in the wind, so they're quite organic looking. And I actually my husband's brother, he isn't a gardener, was in the garden with me during the summer, and he was like, what plant's that? He says, that's class looking. I said, God, I was trying to figure out what he was looking at, and I was like, that isn't a plant, that's like one of our flowers. And he's like, thought it was real. But they are quite structural, and they're fabulous now in the wintertime when everything sort of dies back.
Yeah.
The same with the smaller baskets, like we do wee peony baskets, which are quite nice. Then in the borders when everything sort of died down. And another sort of really popular one, which is quite I suppose it's pretty, is an onion basket, which literally is the shape of an onion. And it's very good, if you want to draw. I grow gladioli through mine, and they just sort of, it nearly disappears a bit during the summer, but then it comes back now. And I have it done in cream, wrapped with copper wire, and I just love it,
Mhm.
especially in winter. So things like that are very popular, that people can just carry away to at plant fairs.
Yeah.
Poppy seed heads are really, really popular, the wee stakes, which we do a couple of different varieties now. We do cast iron one, which will just rust, or you can, again, we galvanize and powder coat them in a few different finishes. Some people like a really sleek finish and they don't want things to rust. And then we also do a resin poppy head now, that's like a verdigris effect. And we do an artichoke head in that as well. So they're popular. Things like that are very popular now. At craft fairs coming up to Christmas as well.
Yeah. And they're just a little bit of extra interest, or
Yeah, something
even.
a wee bit different,
Yeah.
than you'll see in, you do get standard ones that you see in garden centers, they're
Yeah.
just a bit different, I suppose.
Yeah, well, for sure. The bird bats then. So obviously you've said
Oh yeah.
they're very popular for gifting. Have you ever looked at like a feeding station type?
You
Um,
know, well, would you say that I have actually for friends in my gardening group? In saying that, we've done the shepherd's crooks. We do them, so we can do like a multi-stemmed shepherd's crook, with a few hooks on it.
oh, you do
So you
those,
can
yeah.
hang your own suet balls, or you can hang your own, those wee wire mesh things that you get.
Hmm.
So I have done actually a couple for friends. We don't have them on the website yet, but a few, and that had a wee craft fair last weekend, and somebody was asking me. So yeah, we must maybe make that a permanent product now and put it on the website. Um, because at this time of year, that's what people are looking for. My friend had one, and she said, just keeps blowing over. And so
Yeah,
I did her one, and she says, no, definitely it doesn't blow over.
yeah,
We've
there's
learned how to stake things, and there's a foot, as we call it, that you can put on. It's nearly like a bird's foot with
hmm.
three prongs, and if you put that on a single rod, just never blow over.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's the reason I'm asking is I have two bird feeders right where we look out, and
Mm.
we always feed the birds, and there's a phenomenal amount of birds here. But recently, I have two wooden bird tables that one of them is not there that long, and it was an expensive bird table, and it's basically in its last days,
I
and
know they don't last long, the wooden
they,
ones.
they don't last. And what also has been happening is they're not very tall. So I have two, I have three big feeders on it, and my wife has taken to feeding a little fox. Well, not a little fox, a big fox that comes around almost every night.
Lovely.
He gets the scraps, and it's nice to see him coming around. But they're obviously extremely hungry at the moment. So what he's
Mm,
doing is jumping up and grabbing the bird feeder. He's taken numerous ones with peanuts in it, and
right.
you'll find them down the field all chewed up and the peanuts gone out of them. So they're extremely hungry, obviously, when they're taking
Yeah.
things like that. But
Mm,
they're also too low, and that's the thing. I need something taller that'll keep the feeders up higher,
yes.
something
Yeah.
metal that I will not ever be replacing, or at least won't be replacing for a long, long time.
Mm.
And that's why I was
Oh
asking. I think
yeah.
there is a real demand for something quality like that, at a bit of a height.
Yeah. Well, I can help you with that, John.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The one with the shepherd's hook sounds like
Yeah,
it.
the shepherd's crooks are nice now. And Mark can do them any height. And we have done one, except for my friend Patricia, and she had like three crooks, at different heights. She
Yeah.
actually had one in the garden that she got. She showed it to me. She says it just won't stand up.
Hmm.
She would be quite exposed as well. And I says, right, she's the one a bit taller. We made her one last year, and she's delighted with it. So,
Yeah. So
um,
you have like three prongs out of it, but
yeah,
one central one that goes deeper into the ground. Say.
yeah. And then there's three. There's like it's nearly like a bird's claw. There's like 3 feet on it, so they push well into it pushes well into the ground.
Yeah, yeah, that makes
It
sense
anchors them,
because yeah, because there is some relatively good quality ones actually on the market,
Mm,
and I've seen it before. But what you have is you have the main stem that comes down that goes into the ground, and then you have kind of a single prong off that, and
aye,
it
that's not
ends
good
up
enough. No,
no, it
yeah,
just falls to one side basically.
does, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I know.
Typically falls to the side where the wind is blown, in the direction the wind is blown, and yeah.
Yeah. We
So
sort of learned that when we were doing the flower sticks, we just have a prong on them. But when you get into a heavier material, it wouldn't stand up. I says, look, it needs a better fit than that. So
mhm.
I put nearly like a double foot. So just send it. We need just nearly know now when we make something by the gauge of it, what sort of foot it's going to need,
Yeah,
to support it and stop it from flopping over.
yeah, that makes
Um,
sense. So
it does. You learn all the time. Every day's a school day, definitely.
every day is a school day, is right? Yeah. So
Mark likes
uh,
nothing than making something new or something different. And we've been asked for such a range of things. Like it is so interesting. There was a man recently who wanted a pond cover. And that was a really interesting one. It's just people always looking for something different. And
yeah.
I think he
So
finds it challenging because his own job is so stressful. It's just he can go and be in the
yeah, you
ship.
can work something out, but it's
Just
not it's
yeah,
not stressful work.
no,
It's
no,
creative work, which is always good for the head
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
when so we mentioned bird baths, obelisks, arches,
Mm.
plant supports. What else is in the range? Because it is a big range. There's other things
What
there as well,
else do
isn't
we
there?
do? Well, we do. We've started more decorative things as well. I am quite sort of a keen snowdrop fan. We started doing like wee resin flowers, small flowers in resin. We did the stakes for the garden, which are the poppy and the artichoke. And then I thought, oh, I wonder, could you do, like a smaller flower and a decorative step, even for your pots, at the back door come Christmas time. Or even I have actually a few of the flowers now inside, just in big pots in the hall. So I started to make resin flowers. And to do that, I just make clay. I make a clay flower out of clay that air dries, and then I make a silicone mold, which I can then replicate that flower in silicone all the time, and sorry, in resin all the time,
Hmm.
and do different colors. So smallest thing I made is snowdrops. We made snowdrops for last year for the Snowdrop Gala in Ballykeely. That went really well. Now I've added mascara. I do and tulips and Yeah. So I think to me, it's brought out my creative side that I've always loved. I've always loved art and nature, and I did go to art college, but I never really pursued that and ended up doing environmental management and things like that. So it's nearly like you've got a chance to go back to what
Yeah.
you really wanted to do when you were a teenager and sort of experiment with it. And yeah, it's going really well. They're well received because even a wee resin flower, you could use a single flower in a um, indoor plant pot and use it as a support that way, or you could just use it decoratively in a stem. So we kind of have from the moon gate to the snowdrop is the range, big to small. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's an amazing range, and as I said, it caught my eye, and it's definitely something that will feature on Christmas gifts for gardeners this year, which is coming up in the next few weeks.
We are looking at a new thing, a new product, which is a cloche. I think if anybody's interested in gardening at all, they've probably all seen the old antique Victorian cloches.
Yeah.
And my husband then, his father makes standard lights for the house, and they have a light that's hexagonal that to me always reminded me of a cloche, the top of
Hmm.
it. So I sort of said to Mark, you could modify something like that and make a really nice cloche for the garden, a modern day one.
Hmm.
Um, so this is a new project that we're sort of looking at now at the minute as well, So it's something.
That's an interesting one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Like
think it'd be a good one.
clashes and plant covers, I
Hmm.
think, yeah, they definitely would go, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because we do a wee one. It's like an antique bell-shaped cloche, which you can use functionally in the garden. Put a bit of netting around it if you want to keep pests off something, or even veg, and then you can put fleece around it as well if you want to protect something in the winter. So
Hmm.
we're always dreaming up a new product line.
New ideas, new
Yeah.
ideas. It's brilliant, yeah. And as I say, it caught my eye at the show. If you had your branded trailer there as well, and everything looked kind of,
Mm.
yeah, it looks
Yeah,
really
we had lots
really
of
good.
fun doing the trailer, so we did.
Yeah,
Because we were thinking of a van, but realistically don't need a van. I mean, we're only, if we're going out to plant fairs 12 to 13 times a year, Mark has a couple of trailers to deliver things in. And I sort of had seen this we trailer and thought it could double as a store when it comes home. We just need to hook it off, leave everything in it.
yeah,
Beauty of our products is they're not perishable, so you don't need to water them. You don't need to worry when you come home from a plant fair.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so it worked out really, really well because we weren't into a van. It was just sitting there all the time and needed road tax and insurance. And
Yeah, yeah, makes
so I thought,
sense.
I've saved a lot of money now. I'm going to spend a bit blinging it up. So he's like, oh, here we go. But yeah, no, the design worked out really well. So I had designed my sister-in-law's van, or they have a wee business there, wooden floors, and she asked me to do the design for it a while back. So that's what made me really want to do my own when I finally got my own
Yeah.
trailer. So
No, look
yeah,
brilliant. Looks absolutely brilliant. I know you have kind of the final craft fair of the year coming up, and
do yeah,
then next year you'll be back at the, all the plant fairs around Ireland again.
yes.
So tell us what plant or what
So the
craft fair is coming up.
the final one we do now is Larchfield Estate, which is sort of Guildford, Lisburn direction, if you know anything about the north. And it's always a really, really, I think it's a magical one. It is for Christmas, but it's a beautiful estate. There's so many just different crafters there that I had until I started doing it, I'd never come across them. And it's a Monday and a Tuesday, which you think, my God, who's gone out on a Monday and a Tuesday?
Yeah,
But people really do attend it well, and it's always for a charity, a good charity every year. So it's coming up now on the 4th and 5th of November. And on the Monday, it'll run from 10 to 8. So it's a long day, but it gives people a chance to come in after work as well. And on the Tuesday, then it's from 10 to 6. So
brilliant.
it's always well attended. If there's anybody in the vicinity, come along. And I'll be putting up on Facebook, on Instagram shortly. I don't really do Facebooks, but I will be putting it up on Instagram. So that'll
Yeah.
be our final.
And your website is, has everything you need to see the products and to get an
Yes,
idea of.
our website, you can see all the products, and I would sort of update every month just with a wee musing from the garden of what's happening in the garden this year, at this month, and sort of things that you can do and things that you can think of. And I think this time of the year is, if you want to do something structural in the garden, is the time to reassess and think, this didn't work this year, and next year I need, to support that, or put an arch there. Or so it's always a good time of the year, I think, to reflect in your garden and think about what plans you want for next year. So yes, this will be our final plant fair, or sorry, it's not plant fair,
Craft fair.
craft fair.
Yeah.
And then we will be trying to
Wind
modify
down.
our own. We've more plants of our own. See a mini digger coming in, definitely. But yeah,
Yeah, very good. And your
keeps us
website
busy.
is, what's your website address?
Yes, www.rosabellplantsupports.co.uk.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
I'll put the link to it in the show notes anyway, so people
yes.
can find you, and I'll put your link to your Instagram in there as well.
Yes, so to sell, what we do is we do have some things on Etsy sometimes, but if people want something, if they just contact us directly, we'll be able. I mean, we can get things anywhere across the country. Like, we've delivered to Cork before, so there's
yeah.
nowhere too far. We always enjoy even making a trip out of a delivery as well. So yeah, if anybody's interested in anything, they just can email, give us a ring.
And I know you have kind of connections with a lot of the open gardens around the country, and a lot of them are probably using your pieces and so on as well.
Yes,
So
we have done a good few bits for quite a few of the gardens that would be on the National Garden, the Open Garden Scheme, and RHS, I partner gardens, so we're slowly building up our profile, I think, and we've got to the stage now that people, would say, "Oh God, I got a trellis of you last year. Can you make me this to,
yeah,
a size?" And we do custom things. We enjoy doing that. We just don't want to be like a production line
yeah,
making the same
yeah,
thing all the time. So
yeah,
it's varied. Yeah,
yeah. That's great, and yeah, it gives you, as you say, it brings out the creative side as well. So
yeah,
um, yeah, definitely caught my eye anyway, and I think anyone that has a look at them will see in the person, you will see it's how great they really are. On the website, you'll get a fair idea of what the stuff is, and the look of them, and they look great. But when you see it in person, like, they are real quality, real quality. So,
thank you, John. Yeah,
really interesting chat, and yeah, as I say, great range of products, really nice. Caught my eye, and definitely something we'll feature on Christmas gifts for gardeners in a couple of weeks' time as well. So, Rosie, thank you very, very much for coming on Master My Garden podcast.
thank you very much, John. Lovely to speak with you. Appreciate your time.
So that's been this week's episode. A huge thanks to Rosie for coming on. Yes, as I say, slightly different to what we'd normally cover. We don't cover, that type of an episode, but I just thought it really, the range really stood out to me. And I know that it's something that many of you gardeners will struggle with, different types of supports and cloches and obelisk. And I suppose to get something that's going to last and quality, and then the little bit of creativity in it as well, makes them stand out, different colors and so on. So yeah, really worth checking out, and we'll feature it again on the Christmas gifts for gardeners. That's been this week's episode. Thanks for listening, and until the next time, happy gardening.